Conflicting stories, nasal surgery, destitution, overblown egos, and cartwheels across sports cars. It all happens surrounding the history of this classic rock anthem next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. If you missed the days of classic MTV and VH1 where they've actually played music, tell you what, this is your place. Subscribe to this community right away to get our daily content. Click the bell so you never miss out. To get even more footage and even become a producer of the channel and help us curate this, make sure to check us out on Patreon. Now, when one is trying to get the true account of the provenance of anything, especially a piece of art that involved the input of more than one person, an unusual phenomenon often takes place called the Mandela effect. The Mandela effect is when several people have different recollections about the same occurrence or creation. The late film producer Robert Evans once quipped, "There are three sides to every story: my side, your side, and the truth." When telling the story of Whitesnake's retrospective greatest hit, Here I Go Again, the Mandela effect is in full force. As lead singer and co-founder David Coverdale likes to say, everyone has a Here I Go Again story. Coverdale was hired as the lead singer for Deep Purple, of course, to replace the disenchanted Ian Gillan in '73. He left DP in '76 and co-founded Whitesnake in '78. One of the co-founders of Whitesnake was veteran blues guitarist Bernie Marsden. While working on material for the album Saints and Sinners, Marsden presented a rough draft of a song that he was noodling on called Here I Go Again. According to Marsden, he had the Here I Go Again line along with some verses that needed work. Bernie added that Coverdale kept the title, finished the lyrics for the song. David Coverdale's story, true to form, is quite different from Bernie Marsden's. Over countless interviews on the subject of the inception of Here I Go Again, David Coverdale has maintained that he wrote the song in 1981, about the breakup of his marriage to his first wife, Julie Borkowski. David recalls being on holiday with Julie and their young daughter in southern Portugal, when issues between the couple led to them to sleeping in separate rooms. It was during that tense experience that he began writing the song. The original version of Here I Go Again was a focal track for the Saints and Sinners LP in 1982 as the lead single from the record. Album broke the top 10 in the band's native UK, but the single hit the wall at number 34, and there was no fanfare in America to speak of. Coverdale called Saints and Sinners his contractual obligation album. He was totally dissatisfied with the musicianship on that record, apparently. 2 years later, in 1984, Whitesnake released their sixth studio LP, Slide It In, and the band began to get some traction in the States, particularly with the single Slow and Easy that went to number 17 on the mainstream rock chart. It seemed as if Whitesnake was poised for that breakthrough success on their next album. In the US, Whitesnake was signed to Geffen Records in '83 by legendary A&R executive John Kalodner, and it was his responsibility to see that Whitesnake delivered their next album in 1985. Kalodner's involvement with Whitesnake was complete. The choice of songs to record, the selection of studio, the producers, the art for the album cover, everything. A new Whitesnake album was a huge part of the label's annual revenue projections for, I believe, 85 and 86. However, there was deep trouble on the horizon that threatened to derail the entire project. Even though Whitesnake had 6 studio albums under their belt and a solid tour base, the band was destitute. David Coverdale himself was millions of dollars in debt, if you could believe that. To make matters worse, Coverdale was afflicted with a vicious sinus infection that required him to receive nasal surgery in 1985. He was unable to use his vocal instrument for nearly 9 months. Coverdale honestly believed his singing days were over. Luckily, David's throat finally healed and he got his voice back to finish the vocals for the record in August of 1986. And when David was finished recording, he sacked his entire band, including John Sykes, who co-authored 2 of the forthcoming album's biggest hits, Still of the Night and Is This Love. The The contempt between Sykes and Coverdale has been so intense that the two haven't spoken since Sykes was unceremoniously dismissed back then. Before the release of the '87 LP, Whitesnake had only one band member left, David Coverdale. The bills related to the making of the album were mounting, and there was no revenue coming in for the band to offset those charges. Coverdale was $3 million in debt and getting poorer by the minute. Conditions just got dire. They were so dire that Coverdale was an uninsured motorist. He was unable to pay his premiums, and he couldn't check out of the Mondrian Hotel in West Hollywood where he was living because he couldn't pay the bill. Coverdale resorted to singing, cheesy jingles for the New York Seltzer Company to bring in a little bit of cash, something that I'm sure he didn't want to do. The executives at Geffen, including Kolodner and David Geffen himself, were tired of the delays and the exorbitant demands of David Coverdale, and they refused to pay for the video for the first single, Still of the Night. This is back when MTV was in its biggest hurrah. Their enthusiasm and their funding was circling the drain. The Whitesnake album that was on the release docket for '85 was more than 2 years overdue. The status of the name Whitesnake with Geffen was tenuous at best. Even Kolodner was in fear of losing his job. It was the proverbial make or break time for Whitesnake and David Coverdale and everyone associated with the Whitesnake album, for that matter. Desperate to get money to produce the video for Still of the Night, Coverdale met with an up-and-coming video director, Marty Callner, with his hat in hand. Callner, whose career in music videos began with the iconic clip for We're Not Gonna Take It by Twisted Sister. He really liked David Coverdale, and he liked the music. He was aware that Geffen was not going to pay for anything other than a bare-bones production, so he decided to front Coverdale the money and actually pay for the creation of the video for Still the Night. It was an incredible break, really, proving to be a miraculous game changer for David Coverdale. Telling me you're gonna have more. The finished video for Still the Night was presented to millions of viewers as Hot Clip of the Week at MTV, and Whitesnake's fortunes immediately soared. Based on the subsequent surge in record sales, Geffen approved a budget for 2 additional music videos for Is This Love and for Here I Go Again. Still the Night, the song Still the Night was a hit at mainstream rock. It climbed to number 18. And then came the second and third incarnation of the Coverdale Marsden composition, Here I Go Again. Coverdale did not want Here I Go Again on the '87 album, mostly because it was an old song. David grumbled that putting Here I Go Again on the new record would be a prostitution of his older work, but Kolodner insisted and made the song's inclusion a specific deal point for Geffen's contract with Whitesnake. Kolodner's plan was to re-record Here I Go Again and to transform the track into a hit for the American market. A genius move, of course. The overhaul of the song from the original '82 recording swapped the organ, except played by John Lord in the intro, in favor of a modern synthesizer intro performed by Don Airey. The rhythm pattern was slightly changed again to make it more contemporary and less bluesy than the original. They also scrapped the drum sequence that set up the bridge and was repeated in the outro of the predecessor. The synthesizer and rock guitars were much hotter in the update, of course. One of the most noticeable alterations from the 2 versions was the lyric change from Like a Hobo, I Was Born to Walk Alone, to the revised Like a Drifter, I Was Born to Walk Alone. Like a hobo, I was born to walk alone. Like a drifter, I was born to walk alone. Great change there. The main reason for the word swap, though, was because Coverdale didn't want to be mistaken for using a gay slur when he sang Like a Hobo. The lineup of musicians that played on the second version of Here I Go Again included some really heavy hitters. There was David Coverdale, of course, lead vocals, Neil Murray on bass, John Sykes, rhythm guitar and backing vocals, Adrian Vandenberg performed the song's tasty guitar solo, Ainsley Dunbar, Journey on drums, Don Airey played the synthesizer, Bill Cuomo provided additional keyboard parts. The album was produced by Mike Stone, who's done a lot of Journey albums, and Keith Olsen, the great Keith Olsen. They both achieved elite status in the recording business at that point. At the insistence of Kolodner, there was yet a third version of Here I Go Again that was billed as the 87 radio mix. It was a tighter, brighter mix to procure a crossover top 40 airplay. Now remember, Coverdale fired everyone after the second recording of Here I Go Again, so they had to bring in a group of new players for yet another version. The 87 radio mix featured Denny Carmassi on drums and Dan Huff on guitar. So the synthesizer intro was removed entirely, with Coverdale's lead vocal transitioning much faster into the first verse, if you remember. MTV was basically, if you think about it, the Whitesnake channel in like 87 and 88, part of 87 into 88. The videos for the first 3 singles from that 87 Whitesnake album were all in power rotation on the network. I remember seeing it all the time. Including Is This Love, which was a stone cold smash. It shot to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 13 at Mainstream Rock. The treatment for the trio of videos had an iconic common thread: the stunning sex symbol Tawny Kitaen. Tawny, of course, the eye catcher for all 3 Whitesnake videos, but her cartwheel gymnastics on the hoods of 2 Jaguars in the clip for Here I Go Again was one of the most memorable spectacles of the MTV heyday, no doubt about it. Kitaen was actually not the first choice for the female figure in the Whitesnake videos. The role of the Whitesnake woman was supposed to go to Claudia Schiffer when she was the guest jeans girl, but I guess Schiffer dropped out just before shooting the Still of the Night video. David Coverdale and Tawny had just started to date, and the couple was about to leave for dinner. They were about to leave for dinner one evening when Marty Callner, he called them and informed David that they had some problems and insisted that David come over immediately to discuss. And David and Tawny scurried to Callner's home. According to Coverdale, when Marty opened the door, his jaw hit the floor. "That's her," Callner effused while pointing at Kitaen. Problem solved. Tawny Kitaen became the Whitesnake woman, legendary, a rock video goddess. Coverdale and Kitaen married in 1989, actually divorced 2 years later. The gut instincts of John Kolodner did not fail him, though. The revamp of Here I Go Again was a towering #1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. It far outperformed the original version in the UK as well, ascending to #9. It was also #1 in Canada and several other countries. The Whitesnake album sold more than 8 million copies in America and over 10 million worldwide. Here I Go Again has established a legacy as an anthemic classic rock standard with a dual meaning that has awarded the song timeless emotional resonance. The track it's just a rousing soundtrack of self-reflection, with both the original 82 version and the seminal 87 version beginning with the contemplative keyboard intro flowing under David Coverdale's heartfelt soul-searching in that first verse. "I don't know where I'm going, but I sure know where I've been, hanging on the promises and songs of yesterday, and I've made up my mind, I ain't wasting no more time. Here I go again." I ain't wasting no more time. Here I go again. It's a kind of jukebox poetry that has lifted my spirit, and many of yours too many times to mention. The chorus of Here I Go Again marshals energy to turn away from the past and rush forward with what lies ahead in your life's journey. With a conquering David Coverdale proclamation, here I go again on my own, going down the only road I've ever known. Like a drifter, I was born to walk alone. But I made up my mind, I ain't wasting no more time. The second verse is where we pick up the veracity of Coverdale's story of the song's origin, sharing the heavy burden of heartbreak and the inevitable loneliness that accompanies it. I'm just another heart in need of rescue, waiting on love's sweet charity. And I'm gonna hold on for the rest of my days because I know what it means to walk along the lonely street of dreams. Such a great line. The motivational power of the tune's substance has made Here I Go Again a pop culture phenomenon. Among the highlights, it was a theme song for boxer Mickey Ward, portrayed by Mark Wahlberg in the 2010 movie The Fighter, along with placement in the films Man Up in 2015, there was Rock of Ages in 2012.
And here I go again on my own.
Adventureland in 2009, Old School in 2003.
Can you turn that off for a second? Wow, that's really loud.
Yeah, thanks. Took the restrictor.
I Still Know What You Did Last Summer back in '98. And my favorite use in 2019, Here I Go Again, was the music track in the Glory of Love episode of the series Cobra Kai, where it was used in the dream sequence with Johnny Lawrence hooking up in a tryst with the mother of his prize karate student. The most widely known syncing of Here I Go Again was in TV advertisements for Geico and the 2016 back-to-school campaign for Walmart. It's been everywhere. In 2006, VH1 named Here I Go Again as the 17th greatest song of the entire 80s. It's a song that, like I said, has been a pick-me-up, a motivator for me whenever I felt like throwing in the proverbial towel. Actually, here's a story, one that I remember. When I was in 6th grade, when the song was big, there were two things I collected and was obsessed with. Comic books, for which I had hundreds, and music. I was kind of the comic book nerd. And there was a girl that I was in love with since the 5th grade. She was really popular, and of course I was a zero. I, of course, made her mixtapes and sent her notes that would say, will you go with me? Remember that, where you'd have to check box, yes, no, maybe. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, for a year, I was chasing this girl and being rejected right and left. You know, finally, the day before Valentine's Day, 1988, I remember, her friend came over to me and told me, you know, that this girl would go out with me if I would throw away all my comic books. In essence, she was trying to make me shed the comic book geek status. I'll tell you, I was only 11 or 12. I didn't really know who I was, and I cared what people thought of me at that point. I wouldn't learn the lessons that Robert Smith and Morrissey would teach me in songs for another year or so. I was blinded by my schoolboy crush for this girl, so I committed to throwing out all my comic books. So that day I went home along with a few of my friends. I packed up all of those my comic books I collected over the years and hauled them to the nearby dump. And it was a really sad day, but alas, I was about to win the heart of my 6th grade crush who I'd loved forever. And since it was the day before Valentine's, I spent all my allowance getting her like a teddy bear, and it was holding a rose, I think, and had balloons. Anyway, so I remember the next day, I walked up to her, and I remember she was wearing Guess jeans, of course, a pink Esprit shirt, this swatch, really cool swatch, huge neon hoop earrings. She looked like Mercedes from that Corey Feldman, Corey Haim 80s movie, A License to Drive, if you remember that. I told her of my brave sacrifice of getting rid of all of my comic books, including the entire run of Gru the Wanderer and every issue of Peter Porker, The Spectacular Spider-Ham. Do you remember that? Anyway, I gave her my gift, and we walked down the hall. We were holding hands. I was on top of the world. I went from geek to chic and had the girl of my dreams on my arm. I felt like I was in a music video. Halfway through the next class, I was passed a note from my crush. I opened it with this bravado. I said, Adam, thanks for the Valentine's gift. You're a nice guy. Let's just be friends. P.S. You're dumped. Dumped. I had to read it again to make sure my eyes hadn't deceived me. I mean, dumped on Valentine's Day after throwing away, every comic book I ever had. I was devastated. Easy come, easier go. I was laughed at for the next few hours of school by everybody who had known that what I had done, throwing away all my comic books, that I just got kicked to the curb. She'd only agreed to go with me because it was to get a Valentine's gift. She humiliated me, and I was in turmoil and heartbreak, and I remember riding the bus home, and I was just in a lot of pain. And I fished out my Walkman. I was searching for the perfect song to drown my sorrows in. And Whitesnake's self-titled cassette fell out of the ground. Remember, I picked the tape up off the ground, and I snapped it into my player, and expecting to hear Is This Love? Instead, I heard Here I Go Again. I must have put it on the wrong side because I was not expecting this anthem. As this song blasted into my ears, instead of wallowing in my self-pity, David Coverdale's words of wisdom washed over me like a beacon of defiance and strength.
I don't know where I'm going.
I was a drifter born to walk along. I wasn't gonna waste my time feeling sorry for myself. I was gonna pick myself up again, walk down that lonely street of dreams, hanging on to the promises and songs of yesterday.
Hanging on the promises and songs of yesterday.
And you know what? I'm still doing it. I mean, this empowering song, all cheesiness aside, this song by Whitesnake continues to be the beacon of strength for so many. That day, I took the last of my allowance. I went down to the store and I restarted my comic book collection. I think I got the latest issue of Spider-Man, and I also got David Lee Roth's album Skyscraper. Thanks to David Coverdale and this incredible song, I was gonna be okay, and you know what? I was.
Like a drifter, I was born to walk along.
I want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear. I wear these all the time. Go create your own pair at zenni.com. Get digital blue light protection with them. Protect your eyes from digital blue light. Leave us a comment on this incredible song. Tell me about an experience that you had where a song gave you a huge lift when you were in sorrow. I want to hear those stories. To get this classic Whitesnake album on vinyl or the anniversary box set, click on our Amazon links below. If you like our content, we do invite you to subscribe below. To get behind the scenes footage, other content, check us out on Patreon. Help us keep this music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe.